Ladies and gents, I talk a lot on this channel about webinar strategy and the things that we do in the copywriting and the marketing and the things we do in the offers and the bonuses and everything like that to do the successful webinar campaigns that we do for clients. If you don't know who I am, my name is Charlie McCormack. I run a company called Webinar Wizards where we implement this webinar system that you see right here into info and coaching businesses. And I've made my clients over £650,000 and counting in attributable direct revenue. But we wouldn't have been able to do that without the tools and technology and systems that actually make these live campaigns work. Because it's great having a great strategy, but what we've actually found is when we have the right systems in place, we make more money from the webinars, actually off the webinars, than we do on the webinars when we get these systems right. And in this video, I'm going to show you the exact tech stack, so the softwares and the tools that we use in order to do these campaigns for our clients. If you're interested and you want to see exactly what it is that we do and how we can add an extra 30 to 50k a month in your business in 90 days using our live event webinar infrastructure, you can go to that link there. So the first tool that we use, as many of you are probably familiar with, is Go High Level. And in terms of the webinar campaigns, we use this for the landing page, we use this for the confirmation page, we use this for our CRM, we use this for our workflow and automations, and we also use this for our emails and text messages. Not always if the client has a different ESP or a different SMS provider, but here's some examples of how we use Go High Level for webinars. So as you can see here, here's a landing page, standard landing page, brow, timer, logo, headline, subheadline, button, and then we also put some other stuff on there. I'll actually show you this landing page because it's not finished yet, but it is coming together. There's going to be a short VSL there, and then what you'll learn on this live webinar. We've done this landing page a little differently just because it's a different market. But yeah, this was all built on Go High Level, as you can see here. So that's how we do that. We also have a confirmation page example. That's my client, Callum Carver. And the point of the confirmation page is to essentially set people off on a journey from when they first sign up to your webinar to when they actually attend the webinar. Here's an example of the CRM that we also use on Go High Level. So it looks usually something like this. We'll track people who register, and then we'll also use our integrations and workflows to track who left before the pitch, who watched the pitch in contact, who applied, who booked a call, who purchased on the webinar, so on and so forth. And then you also have registered for the webinar here. These are an example of a workflow and an automation that we use for the webinar campaigns. Like I said, this will include email and SMS if our clients don't use any other softwares. Now, obviously, you can also use ClickFunnels or HubSpot. I don't know if you can actually build funnels on HubSpot, but you know, I don't know why you wouldn't use Go High Level. It's an all-in-one tool, and most of our clients use Go High Level anyway. The second thing is Webinar Jam. Now, there is some debate in the webinar space about which software you should actually use for your webinars. Now, we use Webinar Jam because I've tested different platforms. I've tested Zoom. I tested one that was called like Webinar Stack or something. It was one of Russell Brunson's. And for B2C, for integrations, for putting the whole campaign together, we want to use Webinar Jam. Now, this is because we can put the embed button, similar to how you see here, straight on the funnel, which will sign them up straight to the Webinar Jam, which means that we can integrate their details then back into the CRM. That's nice and easy to get people to sign up, so you can just embed that code onto your landing pages. You can moderate the chat, which is incredibly important for B2C, because I remember being on one of Ben Bader and Pierre's webinars, and everyone was kind of trolling them, and Ben was getting some weird traffic back then, but he was like, nice try Diddy and all these other things, and you want to be able to moderate that, and I don't think you can do it as easily as you can on Webinar Jam on Zoom. It integrates nicely with Zapier, GHL, and ClickFunnels, and it's also easy to make offers at the end. We get the back-end data, so when you saw the CRM above here, before, how we can see when everyone left, when they attended, if they watched the pitch, that's because we get that data when we use Webinar Jam, which then allows the sales teams, our sales teams, and our client sales teams to follow up efficiently rather than wasting our time following up just the whole list of everyone who registered. We can work backwards through the CRM from the people who booked a call, put them through your usual pre-call flows, then the people who applied but didn't qualify, ask them a few questions, see where they're at. The people who stayed for the pitch but didn't apply, see what their problems were, send the people the replay who didn't attend. And when you separate it all out like that, that's when you get a really robust system. And then you maximize every lead that you get from your live webinar campaigns. If you're doing B2B you're in a more sophisticated market. So for example, people like Serge Guattari and Matt Gray do their webinars on Zoom webinars because it's a bit more sophisticated. You don't really have that risk of the average consumer trolling you in the webinar chat or saying like, nice try, Diddy. And most people use Zoom anyway, so you can just bolt this onto your account. The third thing is ConvertKit. Now, ConvertKit isn't essential. I use it personally for my newsletter because I like it. I like the way that it lays it out. It's just purely for email, and the deliverability is really good. And when you're sending so many emails, so for example, let's say you were to get 1,000 people to sign up for a webinar and you want to send them a reminder. Let's say the campaign is a week long. You want to send them an email on day 7. You want to send them an email on day 5, 3, day before, and maybe 2 that day. You're talking like 8,000 emails, and you need the deliverability to be absolutely spot on. I was on a webinar the other week for an OnlyFans offer because I was just funnel hacking them, and I signed up for it, and every single one of their emails went into my junk because they were using GHL, and I know they were using GHL because I could see the unsubscribe button, and that was the GHL unsubscribe button. So when you're sending that volume out, as we send in webinar week, you want to be using ConvertKit because it has the highest deliverability. It's got clean IP addresses. It's built for email, whereas Go High Level is like an all-in-one. Go High Level is good for your booked calls, just for your standard sales process and your SMS and everything. But for the on-the-day webinar reminders and big campaigns like this, you want to be using something that is actually just an ESP. And like it says here, if one of these platforms has issues, you're not screwed, because then you can use GHL or you can use ConvertKit, and you can directly integrate this with Webinar Jam and GHL via API. The fourth tool that we use is Typeform, and this is really important. If you don't pay attention to anything in this video, please pay attention to this, right? When you are on a webinar, the webinar will be enough, and for the majority of people, the webinar is enough, but there will be some people that want to speak to you first, and you need some sort of filtering process, because imagine you do a webinar on a Monday. You want your calendar, Tuesday and Wednesday, to be as clear as possible. And this is where most people mess up, because they let anyone just book a call straight through on the webinar, which is like the 2 days after the webinar is the most valuable time. We only want people who are qualified on those 2 days to get them in the bonuses, get the revenue in from the webinar while they are primed and they're at their warmest. This is massively mitigated because of how good webinars are, but we still don't want people to book up those special spots the next day or the day after. Instead of just letting people book straight in, give them a type form first, qualify them. And I will show you an example of this because you will see how powerful it was. On a recent webinar we did, this was a paid webinar, by the way, we had 380 people in attendance, and 150 of those people tried to book a call straight away. Only 28 were qualified, and they were able to self-book because the type form qualified them, and the other 122 would have booked up those slots even though they weren't qualified. But then what we could do is go back the next day and work through the 122 people who applied, see why they weren't qualified, see if they were telling the truth on the form, and then book them in and let the people who are qualified self-book for the most important days. It's so important because those 2 days, those 2-3 days after the webinar is when people are ready, they've sat through the sales presentation and they want to buy, and you need to let them buy. Tool number 5 is Zapier Make or Integrately, just something that you can integrate all these different softwares with, because if your tech stack isn't talking to each other, the campaign will flop, and all you have to do is build these automations and integrations once, and then you can reuse them for all the different webinar campaigns that you do. So here are some essential flows that we have. When people sign up to the Webinar Jam on the landing page, it creates contact in Go High Level. Go High Level then sends the contact to ConvertKit, where they're then put in a sequence, and also the type form when they apply will go into the CRM in that pipeline that we created, where it will be applied but didn't qualify, and everyone should be tagged. So then we can go through and reverse order, work through the warmest people first, so the people who watched the pitch, then the people who left before the pitch, and then the people who didn't show up, we send them a replay, and then the people who applied but they didn't book, we follow them up, and then the people who book calls, we then just put them through the standard book call process that you should have in place anyway. And this matters because your follow-up needs to be different depending on the person's behavior. So if they haven't showed up, there's no point making an offer to them because they're still cold. So what we can do is we can send them the replay or the offer for a paid replay or something like that. And yeah, here we go. There's the example. Someone registered in Webinar Jam, GHL to ConvertKit, whatever else. All automated, all instant. It all gets sent out, and all you have to do is build these automations once. Tool number 6 is Claude. Because AI, we use Claude to help us write ideations for the VSL, the landing page, the emails, and also the ad copy and the social copy. Ad copy. But, and this is a big but, we never use AI for the actual script because the script is the most important thing. I will sit down from scratch using my webinar script framework that you can get on the newsletter in the link in our description. But the webinar script has to be used. So we use Claude for a lot of the email sequences and also the landing page copy and also some ad copy as well. But we review everything. We will not let AI run wild with the marketing because Claude is just like it's like a first draft writer. It gets the ideas in your head and then you can just go through and edit it. We never use it for webinar scripts. The final copy is always human edited. We always make it for the core messaging. We will come up with it ourselves and we use it to do the heavy lifting because we don't want to sound like a robot when we're actually on the presentation. So they're the tools, and if you want us to implement our live event webinar system in your business, you can book a call with me in the link down below. I'll also leave the link to this document below as well, so you can just go ahead, and if you're interested, you can just click this link here and book a call, and you can also get access to any of the tech that we have gone through there. Let me know if you use this tech stack and if it works for you, and I love you all. Bye-bye.